I'm a member of the Democratic Club and the Villages of the Sumter County Democratic Executive Committee. I'm pleased to be here, and I have a panel of folks who are slowly showing up, so my level of panic is dropping now. Like many of you, we all have our own stories about how involved we became in the Democratic Quest and the Democratic Club, and what it took to get us involved. And it was fun. It's been a wonderful experience, and our goal is to help share all of that experience with all of you, and hopefully stimulate some ideas about how you might like to help. It is never something that we ask you to do alone. It is never something we ask you to do when you're afraid to do it, and it's always fun. We have a wonderful time at the clubhouse, at the new clubhouse in Wildwood, and you'll hear more about that later. So hang around. We have speakers who are going to talk very briefly about their experience. And at the end, there may not be time for questions. If so, we can take them on either side. But if not, the panel will be sitting up front, so please feel free to come up and ask people whatever is on your mind about volunteering, how it works, how painful it was, and how much fun it was. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Juice. Our first panelist, who is Ann Berg.
Woo!
One more thing, if you cannot hear the speaker, please do this, and that will let us know that we need to put the microphone in our mouths. Is this working?
Hi, I'm Ann Berg, and I did a little bit with, starting out, I am a precinct rep with my husband Bob of Precinct 106, which is Sable Chase, Virginia Trace, Largo, and Bridgeport at Lake Sumter, including the homes in Lake Sumter. I had no intention of ever getting involved in politics, and I still don't consider myself in politics. After we had done a few things. We helped with phone banks and such for the 2012 and 2016 elections. We had some coffees at our home, which we really enjoyed doing. And then after that horrible day in November of 2016, we just looked at, my husband and I just looked at each other and said, we have to do something. I was really nervous about it. I didn't know if I should be a precinct rep because I don't talk the issues. I don't talk policy, and I don't get involved in all that kind of thing, that kind of discussion, because I don't feel competent to do that. What I talk about is my values and how my values fit in with the Democratic Party. And the thing I like to do best, and my job as a precinct rep now is to get out the vote, and I can handle that. We love having coffees at our home. I like going door to door. I really like meeting the Democrats. And the thing is, I realize that I'm only going to the homes of Democrats. I'm only calling Democrats, so it's a friendly crowd, usually. And so it's less intimidating for me. And it was, in the beginning, as I realized that, and people were, as I talked to people, either calling them or going to their house, and they went, oh my gosh, there are Democrats here? Then I realized we need to do this. We need to be with each other. Okay. So I would welcome your questions. If you're thinking of getting a little more involved, I'd love to talk to you about it. And this is doable. It is really doable. Yes.
Could we hold questions until the end? And if there's not enough time, we will be up here. So please, don't be shy. Come talk to us. Thanks, Sam. And next is Marty Russell.
Good morning. Marty Gershwitz, originally from New York City. I can't remember when I wasn't engaged in politics. Probably not when I first was born. In my early teen years, I was observing what was going on in this country and around the world. And back then got involved in the civil rights movement and the anti-war protests in Vietnam. And I have continued throughout my life being involved. When I moved here to the Villages about 12 years ago, I wasn't completely and totally aware of the political climate here, but learned very, very quickly in the run-up to the 2008 election when I drove around with some bumper stickers on my car, on the back of my golf cart, and tended to get some negative reaction to that. But fast forward to recently, I was invited to one of the coffees at the Berg's house a number of months ago. My wife and I went. And from there, I got more involved. When the drive to collect signed petitions for the candidates was introduced a while back, I said, that looks interesting. I don't have a problem knocking on doors. I don't have a problem talking to strangers. And so I went forward with my clipboard and my list of Democrats, and I was pleasantly surprised in how many Democrats there were living in my village, Sable Chase. So, for those of you who might be a little nervous about that, what's the worst thing they can do? Kind of close the door in your face. And I had that happen a few times. Occasionally, I ended up in a home where the previous owner, who was a Democrat, had moved, or perhaps had passed away, and was told, oh, boy, Republicans here. And I attempted, and actually was successful on a few occasions, to convince them that regardless of your political beliefs and which group you were in, that everybody should have a choice of all the candidates, whether they're one you would support or one you would not support. And some of them I was able to win over with that pretty simple argument. In this country, isn't that what we believe in? Choice among candidates, political views. And the only way to have that flourish is to have more than one candidate on the ballot representing more than one point of view. So, thank you.
Good morning. I just turned it on. I'm Leon Gentner, and I found the Democratic Club after searching the Villages for a while, because I had decided after George Bush invaded Iraq that I was no longer a Republican, and now I wanted to be a Democrat. And I love this. I loved Obama. I worked telephone calls for both of his elections. I worked for Hillary. I have marched in the rally in Tally for the gun reform, and marched here in the Villages. I have signs on my house. I'm the only one on my street who has signs. And my other neighbors who are Democrats that I found out were Democrats by coming up to me saying, oh, I love your signs. So I have made calls to Washington, D.C. I have the switchboard number if anyone wants it. Mitch McConnell doesn't take my calls anymore. Paul Ryan, I fry him occasionally, Rubio, and I call Bill Nelson to thank him for what he's been doing for us. I love being here. I've gone out to register voters, not very successfully, but you never know, you might. But I will keep on working to get rid of Trump as soon as possible. I hope he's impeached. But I'm really afraid for this country and the direction we're headed in. So I'm working for Democratic candidates as much as possible. I like making phone calls. I worked with the public for many years in the bank and enjoyed it tremendously. So don't be afraid, get out there and do what you can do. You don't have to, run for office yourself, but even sending donations, I donate regularly online through JetBlue. So, I don't send hundreds of dollars. Sometimes it's $5, $10, but I feel like that's my contribution. So whatever you can do is always welcome. I've held signs at polling places, and that's always interesting and fun. So I think that's, I heard Barack Obama speak in 2004, and his values and my values lined up. My husband and I both fell in love with him. So, there's a lot you can do. Don't be afraid. Just step up, because, like Marty said, what's the worst they can do? Slam the door in your face? So have fun and just enjoy it. Thank you.
Probably the common denominator in this panel and most of us in the room today is that we care so much about America, and we see what's happening, and we know that we can make a difference and we can be that instrument of change. But it's going to look different for all of us. The reality is, I don't like knocking on doors of strangers even if they're Democrats. That's just not in my comfort zone. And I got to where I could make phone calls, but it's not one of my favorite things. But here's the reality. I can still make a contribution. There's something I can do. It helps when I go out and I'm with someone and that, somebody who models. By the way, Anne is a rock star at this. She and Bob are amazing. That cannot be said. But I still have, I can, write postcards, and I can help with some fundraisers, and I can work with registration for the club. And my point is, you have valuable assets that will help towards our goal. I mean, I wake up every morning, and I feel like I'm closer living in Nazi Germany. It's not hyperbole. I mean, we're tearing families apart, engaging children. I mean, what is going on with America? My father fought in 3 wars. Active duty, bomber pilot, 3 wars. This is not what he fought for. This is not the America he wanted to leave for his children and his grandchildren. So sitting by idly is way out of my comfort zone. And I may force myself to do some things that aren't, like I said, what I like doing, but I've got support. I've got help, and if there is ever a drinking game that Democrats should have, it should be, I can't believe they're Democrats. Yeah, we would never be so. You just, if we did telephone banking and that was our drinking game, we would be squashed by the end, because people really don't believe that we're here, but we are, and we have to step up. This is the time like it's been no other time, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't sit by idly. I can't do it. It's so important. So thank you for coming, and thank you for listening to us.
But I was never in politics. I was never interested in politics. I didn't understand politics. I didn't know who was running for what. Even now, I'm a precinct captain, and I can't tell you my district. I'm clueless about which district. Politics is designed to be complex. So if the average person thinks, I can't get all of this, I can't figure out who's running for what, when, what the dates are, it's very complex. And all of us together, and many, many of you out here in the audience, work very hard to make it simple for people, explaining what it is they need to know, what we need to know in order to be good Democrats and vote Democratic. That's essential. You never have to do anything you don't want to do. I want to say one thing, Mary Martine Scheiner was very humble in her comments. Not long after she moved here, how many years ago was that, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, Mary was over here, I can remember this, I was active in the club, but not in the Democratic Executive Committee. Mary stood up and got up, took the microphone and said, I don't know what to tell you, but I am hot and I am really fired up about what I'm going to do in this Democratic Committee. I am a precinct captain and I love it, and you should be a precinct captain. And I thought, ooh, I think that sounds really good. And sure enough, it is fun. I don't do anything that's just plain tedious. It has to have an element of pleasure and enjoyment, and you get to meet absolutely fabulous people who, all the same, we don't have to apologize for anything. So I hope you will entertain the idea of really helping us out, because this is it. This is our chance to make our mark with Oren Miller, and Dana Cottrell, and yes, and Gary McKechnie. So hang in there. Are there any questions? And if not, we will descend the stage and have our seats up here, and please come talk to us. Thank you.